Hey everyone, it's your bud Davey Deathray here. Just wanted to jump in before we get going with the interview and remind you guys to click that like button if you enjoy seeing this kind of content on the channel. And you know, if this is your first time or maybe you just haven't subbed yet, head on over to the channel's main page, check out some of our previous videos, and consider clicking that subscribe button as well. We've got a whole bunch of brand new stuff planned for 2024. We're really excited to roll it out for you, and we'd love to have you along for the journey. And of course, follow those links in the description below so you can check out LUXXE Media's socials and their website as well. You'll find through the interview, just like I did, that these are very genuine, smart, passionate, talented people. And you know, one of the great things we can do as members of this community is support one another, lift each other up, and watch one another reach some incredible new heights. Thank you so much to Daniello, Sarah, and Chris for carving out some time from their very busy schedules to sit down and have a chat with me. Gosh, it was like hanging out with old buddies. Even though we've never met and we set everything up on a DM, these guys made me feel so welcomed and so comfortable. So yeah, really the only other thing I have for you guys is to encourage you to jump down in the comments section below, ask LUXXE Media a question, let me know what you want to see on the channel moving forward, and without any further holdup, let's get right into it. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Deathray here, and I'm so excited right now because I'm joined by Daniello and Sarah of LUXXE Media and also Chris Stanley. You guys know him as Cosplay Chris on YouTube, Twitter, everywhere on social media. Thank you guys so much for joining me here to talk about your projects and about the future of LUXXE Media.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Of course, yeah. You're about 18 hours ahead of me out there in Australia, so took some little bit of logistics. I appreciate you guys squeezing me in, you know, in the middle of the day here. And you guys are in the future, and I'm in the past. It's kind of wild. It's pretty cool.
So you missed absolutely nothing, man.
Yeah, I know. I was like, can we do some sort of Back to the Future 2 thing where you guys tell me the score of the game? And I'm like, I don't think I can do that. So Daniello and Sarah, I want to start with you guys. You know, on your website for LUXXE Media, it says you've been going at it for about 6 years or so. I'm not sure if that's how long the media group has been together. Have you guys had your sights set on, you know, filmmaking from the very beginning, or was it sort of like the success of doing photography and videography that kind of led you there? What was that path like?
That's pretty much right on the money. That we always had the goal on film, but we've still always have the love and passion to do photo and video outside of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Like we see ourselves in the future hopefully doing films, you know, full time and all that, but still, like, you know, doing car shoots, still doing portraits.
I think we'll always have that passion for all the other stuff that we do as well. Like, that'll never dissipate, I don't think. I think it'll always be both.
So right now it is using photo video jobs, all that, to fund filmmaking and all that. But we still enjoy every single shoot we do. We still love doing it. We just did a shoot with a very fancy car the other day, and we just loved being around that. So yeah, about 6 years independently, and then LUXXE Media was formed about 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So LUXXE Media, yeah, super fresh still.
Yeah, so they're going into a 4th year, and we're pretty happy with what we've been able to like achieve, who we've met.
Yeah, for sure.
And all that.
Yeah, I'd imagine that, you know, as you guys go along, you know, doing the photography and videography, you make connections with people that are either, you know, modeling and trying to act, or they have those aspirations, and you're able to connect with folks that, you know, can kind of help you, you know, find that path, carve that path to filmmaking. Is that something you guys find, or am I totally off?
No,
you're spot on again. Like, it's the people that we meet along the way that I think have gotten us to where we are, literally just right now, even.
Yeah. Like one, just a little thing there in Uncharted, there's a scene where the villain is at his mansion. That was a whole loop around of years ago. We wanted to do a car shoot. We have a friend of ours we met her, met the dad, and then the dad's friends found us through that, shot his car, and then we used his mansion in the movie. So it was all like a massive
from wanting to do a car shoot with a model looped to somehow meeting someone who had this mansion and using that for Uncharted.
And literally that happens so often, that it's all the connections like that, but we never view them as like just a connection. It's forming genuine friendships and connections of just cool artists, models, actors. So it's when we're doing a massive project, we're just like, hey, we need a car, or we need an actor that looks like this. Do you want to do it? They're like, yep, let's go.
Yeah, that's awesome to be able to to cultivate those relationships and build those foundations. I think that's one of the things that, just kind of inspires creative people to keep on going. And also, it heightens your ambition, because you're like, well, man, I just started out with this little idea, and then look at what happened, because these things sort of fell into place. But, really it wasn't even falling into place. It's like, you took initiative to make things happen, to kind of go out on a limb. I think anytime you're doing something creative, you're putting yourself out there. So it's really awesome and encouraging to see, when people are there to help you, because you never really know how it's going to go. But I find that like most of the time you meet genuine people that do want to help and, be a part of, they want you to be a part of their success, and they want to be a part of your success as well. So that's really cool. Now, Chris, I've got one for you, sir. I'm not going to leave you out. Don't you worry. So, everyone knows you as, I think Cosplay Chris is how a lot of people, find you, but you've been working in show business as, an actor, doing stunt work, building models. You're clearly passionate about the model work that you do, even with your Etsy shop and all that. And you've been in some high profile projects, Thor, Love and Thunder. I see that you did some stunts in the upcoming Furiosa prequel, or at least that's what IMDb tells me. And so is that not true? You can stop me right there.
Not true, man. There is a stunt performer named Chris Stanley here in Sydney who also did Thor, Love and Thunder. So I was doing prop work for Love and Thunder, and then I did 3 days prep work at the same studio for Furiosa on some 3D printed pieces.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm credited as a stunt performer because there's one poor bloke named Chris Stanley as well, and it gets mixed up. So I had to go back and manually change the Love and Thunder part. I haven't done Furiosa yet. But,
gotcha.
Yeah, but you still the names.
Yeah, but you did do work on. I mean, yeah, I remember you saying that. So that's you're in some high profile stuff, and even Ed Sheeran music video. So I'm not too familiar with his music, but that's pretty awesome, man. How did you formally get into show business, and what brought you in the sights of Daniello and Sarah with LUXXE Media?
So I come from like a performer background. My mum's an actor. Dad's like more the logical side, but dad's a photographer as well. Daniello, Sarah, and Dad were having a big chat the other week when they were over at my parents' place, because my dad does a lot of motor racing photography. So there's definitely always been that creative like side from mum and dad, and then also my aunties from dad's side. One's a famous artist in Brisbane, and then just kind of I've always like been fascinated with how things have been made, built, taking things apart, seeing what's inside and and then it got to like being fascinated about movie props, costumes, like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man costume, this guy right here when I first saw Spawn. Just being fascinated like how they did that. Like you can't just go to the shop and buy that, and then you see all the behind the scenes stuff on like DVD and Blu-ray with all these beautiful featurettes on how they made these wonderful costumes. And then by like 2013, like cosplay was a thing, and then I was like, well, I'll dress up and go to a convention, just do cosplay, and started the channel in 2014. Wanted to do a bit of everything, because I'd watch people like Brick in the Yard who did a lot of like molding, casting tutorials. Then I watched like Jeremy Johns, Chris Stuckman, the Flick Pick, all those guys, and I just could relate to them because they're dudes. Like the three of them are so vastly different because they bring something different to the table personality-wise. But I'm like, you guys aren't like Siskel and Ebert, like snobs. You just dudes. So I really gravitated towards that type of critiquing, just from not the layman's point of view, but just natural and not highbrow. So I wanted to do a bit of everything, the talky stuff, the build stuff, and then did that for yeah, since 2014. And then last year decided to separate the two and make a second channel, just doing all movie review stuff, which I'm having an absolute ball doing. And then now and then throw a build video up. And then with one of the cosplays I was working on, Samurai Spawn, I had always like seen LUXXE Media in the chat of my live videos on the main channel. And they're always great, supportive, you know, get the conversation going. They're talking with other people in the chat. I'm like, huh. Then saw their Instagram page. And you know, when you see an Instagram page and you're like, oh, that's sexy. Like that's... Yeah. Like everything looks nice. Like you look at my Instagram page and it's an absolute bloody mess. Like there's no like nothing all gels together. Whereas these guys, everything just looks nice. So I'm like, oh, okay. A lot of car stuff. I'm like, but cars can be hard to photograph sometimes. So I'm like, so they'd be good at picking a moving target, but also make me look good. So was doing Samurai Spawn, reached out. And Danielle and I had like a 2-hour phone call, just getting to know each other, just having a nag, talking about life. And then at the end, he's like, oh, yeah, so you want to talk about this shoot? I'm like, oh, yeah. And then the three of us did Samurai Spawn out here in Sydney. And it was so like better than what I had anticipated. And these guys, you know, had to go above and beyond and learn certain new things for the editing side, the visual effects side. And then we did the Batman. So I had the hybrid bat suit that I was working on that was, yes, there I am there.
That poster right there.
Yeah, there I am there. That had like there was a lot of Pattinson, but then also a different cowl with the lenses. And where we shot that scene in Uncharted where Karush is at his house, that's actually the same place we filmed where I'm Bruce Wayne before suiting up in the den, in the man cave of that beautiful house. And then we shifted locations to this rooftop in the city. And again, it was great. Like, and what's great is like, even when it came to Wolverine, Daniela and Sarah researched how Logan was shot, what cameras, lenses, everything, just to try and get that feel. Cause I wanted Logan, I wanted gritty, raw, and just violent as well. And we did that. The 4 of us nearly died from heat stroke that day, but we did it.
Summer day.
Yeah, it was like polar opposite to the weather now. But with each project, I learnt more. Danielle and Sarah learnt more. And it was just always just everything just always went smoothly, and it was just fun. And, you know, it was challenging sometimes. And then January of last year, I pitched them to do an Uncharted short because I'd wanted to since 2016. And then the film came out with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. I'm like, no, you can't do that. That's just silly. And so I pitched it to them, and then just we tripped over and ended up doing a feature film.
Accidentally.
Yeah, accidentally. Yeah. So it's been good. And now on to Gotham Noir.
Yeah. I mean, so you guys, so Daniela and Sarah, you guys are, you know, obviously, I mean, genuine nerds. It's awesome. You know, like finding the right kind of cameras to match that Logan look. I mean, so that gives me a little bit of insight as to, you know, why you guys have found the success that you have, because, you know, when you're passionate about something and you're nerdy about it and you're willing to go that extra mile, yeah, it's pretty awesome. You know, you guys, speaking of the Oxus Redemption, you guys did what you squeezed out of the budget of the film. Like the production value is so impressive. And it kind of goes back to, Chris, what you were saying about even just the Instagram, you know, when somebody, the way they present themselves, it gives this air of professionalism, even if they're, you know, kind of an upstart or still just like working towards the goal that they have in mind. So, you know, going from like a sexy Instagram page to, you know, using such a relatively small budget to create something that looks and sounds so good. I was really impressed with what you guys were able to do in the Oxus Redemption. And I mean, Chris, like your acting, the American accent is spot on. I've noticed from, you know, watching a whole bunch of your videos that you like to play around with your voice. And is that something that, sure, like, is voice acting something you just kind of do that a little? Like you had mentioned it before with my voice, and it's like, well, I grew up watching The Simpsons, and my brothers and I like talking movie quotes like almost exclusively, and like, is that something that's kind of been a part of just the way you are, that you just do these voices? And is it really easy to do an American accent because there's so much damn American media out there?
Yeah, look, I've been doing impressions since I was a kid. Like I love doing impressions, love making people laugh, even if it's at my own expense. Always practicing in the car, and you know, most times out of 10 I'll be in the car by myself. So I'm like, I remember when The Dark Knight came out, and if I was like videoing all my Heath Ledger voices, I could make a whole cringe channel.
Yeah,
like, and everyone was doing it at the time, like, because he was so damn good at it. But that was one of the biggest concerns going into this. Not only like playing Nathan Drake, but the accent. If there's a slip, it can take people out of it. So I was very self-conscious and just aware, and so were Daniela and Sarah, and they were very supportive throughout the whole process. And we did a lot of rehearsals where these guys had come over to our old apartment where we filmed. We're in a new apartment now, but come over, rehearse. And I remember, I think it was one of the first rehearsals, guys. I don't know if you remember. It was when we were rehearsing when I meet with Sully and I got the map and put it out on the bonnet of the car and all that. And we finished rehearsing. I was like, I don't think I can do this. I really, you got the wrong guy. I was kind of psyching myself out. But during filming, yeah, like you definitely fall into that mindset character. And like, I definitely did miss playing him after we finished filming. But even I was really like confiding in Sarah. I'm like, this is so nerve-wracking, because Sarah's a theater kid. And Sarah's like, hang on, I've got something to send you. So these guys went home. Anyway, Sarah sends me a TikTok, and it's of Hugh Jackman. And he gets asked how he warms up for an American accent. So apparently, and he name drops, and I'm like, I don't blame you, because I'd name drop Johnny Depp too. He goes, Johnny Depp told me this is what you have to do. He goes, you have to say this one sentence, and it contains every consonant and vowel to essentially prime your throat muscles. So you say it in the accent you're wanting to do, like whether it be American, South African, German, whatever. So the sentence is, has anyone asked Sam whether or not his daughter's learning disorder was caused by a genetic abnormality? So then you go, yeah. Has anyone asked Sam whether or not his daughter's learning disorder was caused by a genetic abnormality? So you keep doing that over and over and over and over until like you're primed, ready to go, and then we film. So yeah, it was hard sometimes. There was certain words where my mouth was like, what? How are we going to do this one? Yeah, waterfall and waterbed. Those were the hardest. I don't know why.
Waterfall and the waterbed beside it.
Yeah. By the waterfall and the waterbed. Yeah, water.
Yeah. I think it's just the way that the different, different accents kind of approach vowels. Because I've often heard like English people saying, the biggest mistake that Americans make is they elongate the vowels. He's like, we don't really elongate the vowels. You just think that we do. And so it's like, I think with the way the Aussie accent is just the way you approach that, those vowels, it just sounds a little different. So, and anytime I try to do some sort of accent, it's almost like I'm tensing my muscles. And they just want to relax at some point. They just want to go back to my stupid stoner West Coast, like, California, dude, let's go surfing, And I grew up in Alaska, so I don't even know why I sound like that.
Even just like a Wisconsin accent. We come from the cheese state, and it's like very like half asleep, like type thing. But like Nathan Bates, who played Brother Sam in Uncharted, he sent me a whole bunch of like worksheets on warm-ups and stuff like that. And he's like, Aussies, we speak at the chin, but Americans, it's from the diaphragm. It's like deeper. So, and it's just using muscles where you're like, I'm just trying to talk in an accent. Why would I have to use certain muscles? Then you're doing, you're like, oh, that makes sense. But yeah, there'd be days where like we'd have like a full day filming with the accent. The next morning, my neck muscles would be so sore. It's like, it's because they're just not used to doing that. So it's quite interesting, but it's fascinating at the same time. Like it's yeah, it was really fun.
Does it get harder when, because I've noticed that sometimes you can sort of hear, not in your performance, I've just heard it in so many other performances, the louder somebody gets, the more their natural accent wants to come out. So like if they need to be more like, just vocalize more and go over just a talking level, did you find that like if you have to shout or yell or something like that, is that a whole new ball game in a different accent?
Yeah, I think that one shot where I'm tied up in Uncharted and I scream and I end up spitting everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't realize until you brought it up just then. It was a bit hard. Like, you know, go to hell, Karush, da da da.
About your performance at the same time as trying to balance. Are you saying are you pronouncing the words the way you need to be for the scene, but also like, you know that there's a camera on you at this, like there's so many things you're thinking about at the same time, trying to keep the American accent going. Like it's hard.
And it's so unnatural for your body to do that. You're trying to go, acting is already difficult enough, to go to a place where you have genuine anger, but your body's fighting its natural
instincts. You have to hold on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more visceral. So it's almost, it's extra hard. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I noticed that, you know, we were kind of chit-chatting before the interview and we had mentioned Evil Dead Rise. And are there the two ladies in that movie, they're Australian? Is that correct? Both of them?
Yeah, they are.
And so there are a couple times where it's like they say they're from the Midwest and it's sort of like, you know, you just sort of hear that. You hear that struggle to find that specific accent. But I thought the Nathan Drake performance, I didn't hear any weak spots there. And you know, as far as fan films go, I keep on harping on it, you know, in some of my videos where I, you know, cover things like Never Hike Alone and Dylan's New Nightmare. And then we've got It's Me, Billy, you know, being produced in Canada right now. Do you guys think we're in like this new era of filmmaking where it's like, you know, the technology is kind of at that perfect spot where it's more accessible and more affordable for people that want to just showcase what they can do, and that it's like, damn the studios if they don't want to be a part of it. We're just going to show you what we can do. And do you think that's something that's like this new wave that's going to stay, or do you think it's more of like kind of a proof of concept so you know, can one day work in the studio and get to, you know, be more courageous and take more leaps of faith with, you know, the kinds of projects you want to cover?
I think for us, our goal is for LUXXE Media to become one of the major studios and not have a place for actors, directors everywhere, and basically give them the opportunities that we never had.
Yeah.
And take that and bring it over here to Australia and encourage new development.
Yeah, encourage all different levels of films too, like not just massive blockbusters, but recreating, I guess, what we did with Uncharted and what we're doing this year and stuff.
Bring back the rom-coms, bring back all these areas but made by people that truly care. And yeah, to the point of like the studios be damned, honestly, at the end of the day, movies are entertainment.
Yeah.
Our job is to entertain you.
We want to make movies that people want to rewatch.
We want that movie that you're sick at home and you're like, you know what, I'll rewatch this movie for the 60th time.
Yeah.
We want that.
Comfort films and stuff like that.
We don't want to make a movie that's like, oh my God, it won an Oscar. Fantastic. How many times have you watched it? Once.
Yeah.
We want entertainment. We want fun. We want you to talk about it and have your friends around,
memorize
have pizza
lines.
and like watch the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and also I think like a big part of that too is like the proof is in the pudding, as far as like if you can like, I think I was always into, you know, I grew up playing punk rock and all that, and I really liked the immediate connection you could have with the people at your shows. And yeah, maybe you're not packing a stadium, but when you pack a little bar with a couple hundred people and there's just, you know, you're capturing that feeling, it's like you feel so connected to those people. Yeah, it's more intimate, and I think that those people just they're so excited to support the next thing. I think that's why we're seeing so many great things, like with what, you know, Womp Stomp was able to do with Never Hike Alone, like raising an incredible budget for what, you know, I struggle to even say fan film because it just seems like it's just got this weird connotation, and to me, like, I don't think that it should. I you know, it's independent filmmakers that are showing us what they can do, and yeah, I think that's that's an awesome attitude that you guys have. You know, a great approach there. Yeah, I mean, if you guys can get the people behind you, it's just going to keep on growing from there.
What helped a lot with when Uncharted came out is that now when we announced that we're doing Gotham, so many people have wanted to join in because of it, because it was that proof of like, look, we genuinely care. Everyone here cared. We had nothing of a budget and people loved it. Let's do that again, but with a bigger budget, more people, and everyone started. We didn't even have to ask. We asked no one.
People just
started messaging and going, I'd love to do this. I'd love to do that. I'd love to do it, because people just want to create a cool movie. At the end of the day,
people want to be part of something like sick, you know, like and we're not just mucking around with what we're doing. Like, we're not just doing it for fun. We're doing it because we care about what we do. And you know,
Tarantino said like a cool sort of quote thing that he was like, I'm not making movies for you. I'm making a movie that I want to see. You all are just invited.
Yeah, I think that's the way you have to approach it.
Yeah, we want a story like Uncharted, so we made it.
Yeah, we're doing what we want to see, basically. And if everyone else kind of thinks that's cool, then all right, that's not so bad.
It's like you said, we're nerds at the end of the day, both for photo and just pop culture. So I want to see these elements in the movie in Gotham, so we're making it.
Yeah.
The studio is not going to do it, so
we'll do it.
We'll do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think people can also see like, wow, these guys, they're really onto something. And one thing that I took away is I was like, well, man, just from what you guys must be learning while making the Oxus Redemption, it's got to pour over, you know, for you, Chris, as a performer, and for Daniela and Sarah, for you guys. Just, do you feel like that experience is sort of like, okay, now we know how to approach it, and does it like invigorate and propel you to, you know, take on something like it's pretty lofty? Like, doing a Batman story is pretty big shoes, but was the Oxus Redemption, was that experience just the inspiration for, okay, let's make the next one bigger and better and bite something off that's really big?
I feel like now it's even with Uncharted, we didn't really leave much to guessing. We didn't let ourselves guess anything. It was more so we just like, we have to know what we're doing, how we're doing it all, and that is definitely what's carried over into Gotham. There's no guessing. There is just knowing what and planning what is going to happen, what's the timeline for everything, and just going for that, I think.
And one thing that really helped in Uncharted and now going into Gotham is that we're very fortunate that we are co-directors, co-writers, and also that we are in a long-standing relationship. So the directors are always the port of call for everything. The actors, everyone will ask you, and sometimes all at the same time will ask you something.
Yeah.
But being able to split that workload between two people is what made it go so efficiently.
Literally.
And what is making Gotham like propel itself right now.
Yeah, and because we literally just came off of making a feature film. This one doesn't feel as intimidating. Like, it's got its aspects that are like quite scary and daunting because it's a lot bigger, but because we just did it, we know how to like delegate things, and because there's more people on board, it's like there's less stress on us. So I feel a little bit better about it this year.
And what's funny is we showcased a small part at PAX Melbourne. Melbourne's like a 1 hour flight down from Sydney. And we were in the post-production process at that time. So we were still, you know, had to be in the headspace of Uncharted. But we said to Chris, yo, when we land in Melbourne, we got to tell you something.
We got an idea. We just want to feather in.
So we all flew down, got up to a hotel, went down to the bar, and he's like, okay, what is it? So we have an idea for a new film. And he's like, oh, okay, let's go.
Like, don't think about it, though. We just wanted to let you know. Like, don't get your brain into it. Just think about Uncharted. The next day.
The next day, he's like, I've been thinking about ideas for a costume. Isn't that?
Laying in bed.
Comes to you with some sketches and stuff. All right, here you go, guys.
Yeah, sending inspiration. Yeah.
So funny.
So yeah, Chris, with you now playing, you know, getting to play Bruce and Batman in a feature film, do you take inspiration from? Is there like a comic book adaptation that you particularly love, or maybe even just one of the live acting performances, or is it kind of an amalgamation? Or, you know, how do you approach a character like Bruce Wayne, and how do you make sure that that Bruce Wayne is, you know, that there's contrast between Bruce and Batman?
I think the first thing I did was look at all of the live action Batman, you know, even Kevin Conroy, and see what they did and what hasn't been done yet. Like, obviously, there are going to be things that, not to say that, you know, we're emulating, but there are nuances that you have to include.
Sure.
So took a look at everything, and my biggest inspirations are Pattinson and Affleck. I think the marrying of certain personality traits, physical traits, could work for an interesting Batman. In terms of inspiration from, say, the comics and the graphic novels, for me, it's Dark Knight Returns and Batman Earth 1. I like certain elements from each one. Obviously, I love the brutality of, you know, Frank Miller's Batman, which then bleeds into Affleck. But also, I love the way Pattinson is just so subdued in that suit, where he doesn't say much. You know, at the beginning when they're at the crime scene with the mayor with the paper bag on the hand, and Gordon's there, and everyone's yelling at Batman, he's not even listening. He's just taking everything in, you know, surveying the room, and it's all in the eyes. And even Affleck, there's this, it's such a tiny little thing, but it's always stuck with me. The nightmare sequence in Batman v Superman, where he's chained up and Superman's coming towards him. It's right before Superman lands and all the soldiers kneel down. Affleck's chained up, his head's turned, and he hears the sonic boom from Superman coming, and his eyes just dart. And in that beautiful cowl, because he could turn his head, it just there's just something so soulful about his eyes, and that's why I'm like, I want to utilize just a lot of using my eyes, talking through my eyes. Then obviously with what the dialogue will be that Daniela and Sarah have written, pair it with that, but just taking it all in, and you can just see it in the facial features bleeding through the cowl. So obviously, just again, want to do something different, and the same for other characters as well.
I like that you brought up Affleck and Pattinson, Chris, because I'm a big, like, when it comes to Batman, for me, like, I love Michael Keaton. I mean, he's my original. The first Batman movie, my sister took me to see that the day it came out. I remember it because it was actually a really beautiful sunny day in Juneau, and usually Juneau, it's like 300 days of precipitation a year in Southeast Alaska. So usually gray and gloomy, and I remember getting a vanilla Charleston Chew and sweet tarts and going to the movie. And I wrote Jack Nicholson a letter after, and I wanted to be an actor. That's like what 6-year-old me or 7-year-old me wanted to be after seeing that movie. And maybe it's what's responsible for making me, like, really, you know, start to fall in love with film. But there is something, you know, the size of Affleck, like, I just think that there's something that he looks more like Batman in the comic than I've ever seen on screen. He is massive and barrel-chested. I really like the violent approach as well to the character. I think a lot of people are like, well, Batman doesn't kill anyone. And I'm like, well, yeah, if you ignore the first, like, 40 years of the comic, okay. So, or however long it was that he's carrying a gun around and dropping people off ledges and stuff. And then Pattinson, I really liked seeing, you know, a Bruce that doesn't really know how to separate the two yet, and is sort of like learning that. So yeah, when it comes to, you know, approaching something like Gotham Noir, like, usually, like, having some restrictions can kind of breed creativity. So, you know, putting Batman in that era, you know, how will that shape your approach for portraying Bruce?
Well, because it's usually something we haven't seen before, but I think the first port of call is making sure we have all those layers of Bruce down pat, the facade, the real Bruce, and then of course Batman, just the multiple personalities, the masks that he has to put on, the Playboy persona. And obviously we're in a time where technology is different, but then we can also get creative and explore certain bits of tech and what Bruce is able to acquire, build. I think that lends itself to be are very inventive and fun, and you can go certain places that people haven't seen Batman go before in terms of what gadgets, who he surrounds himself with, what was available at the time, what could be researched, like for like, you know, Kevlar, stuff like that. What was Kevlar like back then? Was Kevlar around, or what's the alternative? What did Bruce use at one point and then upgrade, stuff like that. So I think obviously there's the physical aspect with the suit, the tech, all that jazz, and then with the acting side, it's getting the psychological trauma down, but also the facade, the Playboy facade. And then for Batman, that's when I really want it to be more subdued but powerful at the same time. And like going back to what you said about Affleck, even though he's not everyone's cup of tea, he's my favorite Batman just because of his presence. And even though we didn't get to see a lot, and I wish we had got that solo film with Affleck, I think he just had such a powerful presence. Like he's 6'3", and as Jose Fernandez of Ironhead, who built the suit, said, he's abnormally broad-shouldered when he's not even in shape. Like he's just like I watched Gone Girl for the first time a couple of days ago. Oh my God, I'm so mad I didn't watch it years ago. It's so good. But that was right before he started. Actually, I think he had started training for Batman, but they were still filming. And Warner Brothers like, no, you got to start training. And there are some shots where he's weedy, but he's still like his shoulders are that wide.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Yeah, massive. And then in that suit, he's like 6'4", 6'5", and like 2 meters wide. So he's just a tank. And you know, he's probably committed a few murders, but so did Keaton, so did Kilmer, so did Clooney. You know, and then the whole by proxy thing. It's and then with Pattinson, I wouldn't say it's the complete opposite, but Pattinson definitely did do something different. So, and I definitely do like certain qualities from each of them that I would like to put into my Batman.
Yeah, I feel like the Batman is the closest to like a detective Batman story that we've gotten on film. And it's like, that's, you know, they call him the greatest detective. So like, where's that movie? And I'm happy they finally made one. And yeah, it's too bad we do not get that solo, that, you know, written and directed by Ben Affleck Batman movie.
And I think Affleck was lost in a sea of just not the greatest movie. He was definitely the diamond in the rough. Some people will disagree with that, and that's fine. You know, we all have our favorite Batman. But yeah, I think it could have just been so good. And I really liked his Bruce as well. Like his Bruce Wayne was great. His Bruce Wayne was tortured, old, grizzled, and just grumpy.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Just flipping those tires. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is just you know,
training in a dungeon. Like he's a billionaire and he's training in a dungeon. Like that is Batman to me. He's pulling ropes. He's got like plates strapped to him and CrossFit Batman.
Yeah, he's like, I come from a family of hunters, or what, you know, he has that line in there when he's talking to Alfred, and it's like, yeah, he wants to be gritty and DIY, just like you guys are with your filmmaking. He wants it to all come from that spot of like, no, I'm going to earn this, and I'm going to fight for every little bit of it. Now,
I love that line in the Ultimate Edition. That guy's doing the scratchy, and he says to Cavill, there's a new kind of mean in him. He's hungry and he's hunting. And I'm like, that's great. I love that. That's gave me a bit of pause where I'm like, this is why I like this Batman.
Yeah. Yeah. And that specifically, that part of the cut where I was like, man, I don't know why the studio left this really important part out, where Clark gets to do journalism. Like Clark gets to be Clark, and Superman gets to job. Yeah, Superman gets motivation for not trusting Batman, because I don't think that was in the original cut. He just doesn't like the idea. He's just like, I don't like this guy because he's a vigilante. And it's like, I felt like that scene especially shows that, you know, Clark goes in and sees that, wow, the people that we're supposed to be protecting are afraid of this guy. You know, it's not just the bad people. It's like everyone's afraid of Batman. And so, yeah, that was one of those things in that cut where I was like, man, swing and a miss for the studios cutting that thing apart. Now, Daniela and Sarah, when you guys are, you know, it's a partnership, co-directors, co-writers, do you guys find, is it dependent on the project, or do you guys find that maybe one of you does 60% of that and 40% of the other? Or is it sort of like, is it something that's constantly in flux as far as, you know, who's doing more of the writing and who's making more of the decisions of giving the actors direction and figuring out where the camera should go?
So we work very well because our personalities and what we're good at is actually very contrasting.
Yeah.
So I'm much more the big epic scale. She's the more in detail things that I will miss later.
Mm.
But it both works because, you know, sometimes we need to do something more epic. I'll take that. Or she's like, when it comes down to the quieter moments or even within the epic, something doesn't work. And she will call it out there and then and go, actually, this is how we resolve it. We do this, then it will tie to that. Oh, okay, that works.
But his brain is kind of like a sponge. So any bit of information that he's ever taken in about camera equipment, gear, lighting, anything you can think of, it's like it's in there somewhere. So he's the one that we all go to with our questions about setups or anything like that, because he just is a little genius and knows so much.
Because I come from an engineering background, so I loved always being able to problem solve. Like I am good at that, but sometimes I get lost within that. I get lost in the technical, and that's where Sarah's really good at that and being like, yes, this might be technically correct, but it's not visually interesting.
Sure.
What if we do this instead? It still works if we do this.
We balance each other out. Or even if I'm like, if I have an instance where I'm like, okay, there's something wrong with this image. I can't I can't pinpoint what it is, but I'm not happy with it. He's the one that can sit there and be like, it's this. And when we change that and yeah, it's that. I'm like, all right, now I'm happy. And he's like, all right, that's cool.
And that's why I think a lot of our projects, both with filmmaking and the other stuff, we have found success in it because we have that balance. Someone to genuinely be like, no, stop, look at this.
And obviously, like, we have moments where we clash really bad because he loves something one way and I'm like, meh, or vice versa. And then we have to find some way to compromise and like find a version that we're both really happy with. And usually that version
is the best.
Version. And we're like, oh, okay. So it works out in the end.
And we're very good at being able to separate us being a couple to us working as professionals. We've never let that ever interfere. It's always we're never attacking each other.
It's like a switch.
It's the project. Your opinion's valid, my opinion's valid. What is the compromise? And what helped a lot with Uncharted is it wasn't just us two, it was Chris as well. So by the nature of even having three, and if
we were stuck, we could go to him and be like,
break the tie essentially. And then we all had that agreement of like, if two of us agree, all right, done. That's how it is.
Yeah, I was curious about that with your involvement, Chris, because, you know, clearly you've got, you know, a background that is not just, you know, because you're handsome and in good shape and a fantastic actor, but you've got, you know, these skills that and an eye for what works on film and what doesn't. So I was curious to know, you know, when I first, you know, started looking you guys up and everything, and I got to the sexy Instagram, I was like, oh, I wonder what role or how big of a role Chris plays in here within this group. So that's great to get that insight, and really cool that you guys can sort of fill in each other's gaps. And I always think that like when you're working on something creative, it's like you have to like let the piece speak to you. You know, there's that part of like, I want what I want, and this is how I'm going to like record this guitar part, or this is how we're going to shoot this scene, or this is the line of dialogue that looks good on the page. But like the piece of art sort of like lets you know if it works or it doesn't work. So it's that, I think that's like its own skill, is knowing when something isn't working, or just when you have to try another approach. So that's awesome that you guys have, you know, just kind of worked on that as you go. And I mean, I'd imagine that it's going to pay off huge with Gotham Noir, because talk about a sexy Instagram. All right. That might be the sexiest one.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That was a whole thing that we came up with in the lead up. And just to touch on your point before, at the end of the day, it's all for the project. It's all for the movie, the photo shoot, whatever. We don't have ego in it. It's whatever's best for the story. Like two of the scenes that everyone loves in Uncharted wasn't from any one of us three. The POV shot of when Nathan Drake has the gun to him from the bad guy, and at the beginning where Sam Drake gets stabbed and it's a POV shaky shot. That we got a lot of compliments on. That was my best friend Matt. He's a massive video game nerd, and I was looking through the script, and he's like, well, if you want it to look like a video game, why don't you do a POV shot? He's like, I don't know how you do it, but if you do a POV shot. And we were like, yeah, absolutely. So that also, the Gotham Noir Instagram, the idea of having these photos leading up to an announcement was also from him. He's like, oh, well, since it's going to be a movie coming out in December and we are going to slightly bait it's Christmas-y movie, it takes place during Christmas. He's like, why don't you do an advent calendar? It's December. It's a great way to get people interested. They can follow along and they feel like they're part of the journey. Oh, what are they posting? Who's this? And I went to Sarah and Chris and we're like, why don't we do it?
Yeah.
And then it was just figuring out what photos do we do that it's not 100% obvious what the project's going to be.
Yeah. Like not a dead giveaway sort of thing.
Which worked.
It did work, which was funny because even like there were some photos we thought, all right, for sure this is the one that people will say, it's Batman. But no, people were saying James Bond. I'm like, all right, that's good.
It's just Chris in a tux. We see that all the time. He's flying around, going to all these awesome events. This guy is just, that's the life he lives. He is Bruce Wayne.
I was just going to say, he's the perfect Bruce. He can pull off the suave. He can pull off the brute.
We wouldn't have anyone
action
else.
Hero. He's the perfect casting.
Who the hell are you talking about?
I think we're talking about you, Chris.
I just need the billions of dollars now.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the, it plays into why you've been so successful with the cosplay stuff is that you do have, people say like, you've got so many looks, Chris. You can look just like Logan. You can look like Bruce Wayne. You can pull off all these characters. And you've got this look that's like very malleable as far as, what kind of role you can fit in. And as the founding member of the Cast Chris Stanley as Wolverine fan club, I hope that when it comes to casting decisions like that, like I would love to see somebody like you get a big gig like that, because I love seeing folks that are relatively unknown get these big roles, because I think it helps the audience just like strip away the expectations. Hugh Jackman, at least in the States, was relatively unknown. I know he was a big stage star, in Australia, and very accomplished before coming over. But it's like, would X-Men have worked as well if Russell Crowe had played Wolverine like as originally planned? Because sometimes I think the star power can just sort of make something fizzle or fall flat. And I think that's why, I'm so pumped for what you guys are doing, because I think that these do-it-yourself kind of homegrown production companies and people that are just making it happen, with or without all the financing and all that. I just, you guys are the kind of people that like I want to champion and see, rise to that next level and just continue to make a name for yourselves.
Appreciate it, man. It's good when we've got supportive people like yourself, and even Cecil as well. Cecil's been great throughout the whole thing. Even Vince DeSanti had a chat with him about it all. He checked out Uncharted. He was very sweet about it, considering how busy he is now.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously Dave had a talk with Dave McRae. Like, he's obviously in the thick of Billy Chapter 2. But yeah, it's cool when you watch these people. And it's great to throw on a live stream with Dave and and I've been fortunate enough to do a stream with Dave with the Slaughtered Lamb Boys, and it's cool. Like they're like, they're like your little mini heroes, and you see what they do, and like, oh wow, like, and obviously like they're dealing with bigger budgets, so I'm really proud with what we all accomplished with the minimal budget. Again, like we just squeezed every little bit out of it. And it's funny, going back to Wolverine, I did a joke post last week from the Deadpool 3 set. I photoshopped myself in. I think that's probably the best get I've ever done. There were people in the comments section furious. They're like, "You are spoiling it. I didn't need to know they put another Wolverine in." I'm like,
there's 3 Wolverines, 2 Wolverine. What the hell's going on here?
yeah. And some people people replied to them. I just let them go. People replied to them being like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're spoiling it." And they're like, "Oh, should I tell him or?"
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And it was
So,
good fun. But yeah, I think because have you seen Mission Impossible 2, Davey?
Yeah, long time ago, probably 20. It came out about 20 years ago, right? It must have not been not long after it came out.
More than because so the bad guy in it, the Scottish guy, he was supposed to play Wolverine in Bryan Singer's, and he dropped out to do Mission Impossible 2, and then they got Hugh in, and Hugh was like 32, and he was on stage. He went and auditioned with a perm in his hair for the stage play he was doing at the time, and he got the role. But I forget the Irish bloke or Scottish bloke who's in Mission Impossible 2. He's got a very unique name. He was booked to play Wolverine,
really?
then he had to pull out Mission Impossible 2, and it's pretty safe to say he's kicking himself.
Yeah.
But even though Hugh's not height-wise comic accurate, I think he just went all in and just did such a good job, and it got better. Each performance got better. He got more comfortable with the character. Physically, he got more impressive as the films went on.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm really excited to see what he does this time around. I've said before, if Logan was the last time we ever saw him as Wolverine, fine. Like I think Logan was just perfect.
It's brilliant. Yeah. And you talk about like facial acting and what you can do with a look. It's, man, what Hugh Jackman can do with a look is something else. And I think that's one of those things you pick up on, when you just dive into film, is how much can be communicated without words. And that's a huge part of it. It's one of the things that makes us feel connected, because the words can kind of muck stuff up in a sense. They have to be well chosen, but yeah, the looks that he has, and absolutely Logan is such an impressive film, top to bottom. Yeah, really good shit. Now, it's really cool to hear that you guys, when you hear about folks like Vin reaching out to you and having chats with Dave, it's just awesome to see this sort of cycle of, people inspiring other people, and then that just like pours over and becomes this avalanche of like, now we're in this era of just all these great fan films. Each one's getting better. The ambition is getting higher and higher. Now, you guys aren't planning on putting out Gotham Noir until Christmas next year, so I'd imagine everything is planned out. What does that schedule look like?
So the film comes out at the end of this year in December, and so we're planning to do pre-production up till June, and we're filming in June, July, August, then post-production September, October, November, comes out December.
Perfect.
And it's kind of funny because like conventionally movies take about 2.5 years to make, and we did Uncharted, which was under an hour. And even though Chris approached us in January, by the time the script was written and pre-production started, it was May, June, around May. So pretty much we only had a month really of pre-production. In May, then we did June, July.
We started filming in July. Didn't
That's
we?
right.
Yeah.
Filmed July, August.
July, a little bit of August, and then a tiny bit in September, like 1 or 2 shoots in September.
So the fact that we were able to do that in such a short amount of time, when we started writing the idea for Gotham Noir, and we realized it's so much bigger, but we started doing that in December last year, we're way ahead of where we were with Uncharted.
Yeah.
So now we got the confidence to be like, all right, this is double in length, but at the same time we have double the crew and all around Australia. So
yeah,
we think we can get it done.
Yeah, and that preparation time, right? Just being able to, like you guys were saying, just plan everything out. So, when you're ready to go to camera, there are going to be few questions, and really it'll just be about kind of dealing with the, whatever hurdles you have to pass or jump over for that day, instead of, you know, having to go back to the drawing board on something. So that, you know, that sounds awesome. Now, did you hire your friend as a consultant that gave you the idea for the video game shot and the Insta and all that stuff?
Actually co-writing Gotham Noir with us.
That's awesome, man.
He's genuinely one of the best editors I've ever met, and by trade he's a carpenter, and so I've known him my whole life. And when it came to Gotham Noir, he said I'd like to help out 100%, and so possibly he actually might be building the sets for this film, because this film will actually have sets now. So him with where he works, possibly building that, but yeah, now he's helping write it. And now it's, yeah, how we were saying, I'm the extreme, she's the one that dials me down. Now it's both of us have to dial him down.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, why don't we do this? And we're like, bro, we don't have $100 million. Chill.
Easy there, Trigger. I know you're in the middle of planning this next big film, but Chris, for you, what's on the horizon? And for Daniello and Sarah, do you guys have anything outside of Gotham Noir that you know, that you're working on?
So this year, just really want to focus on the new channel, just gaining a lot more momentum, you know, just putting out good content, being consistent with it, which is, you know, a big thing, as you know, Davey. And then obviously, you know, with my builds and stuff like that, I always still just want to be creative and build. Like I just did a new Freddy bust from the first Elm Street, which is, you know, coincide with the 40th anniversary this year of the first film. And then obviously we've got Gotham Noir. I'm getting married in a couple of months, so it's a busy year. And then, you know, after Gotham Noir, whatever shenanigans the three of us come up with next or want to do, I'm always game. So just a bit of everything, man. In front, behind the camera, constantly auditioning, you know, for commercials and stuff. So trying to, you know, audition all the time, and yeah, just do a bit of everything, but just be consistent with everything.
Yeah, that Freddy bust is really impressive. All that work that you do is really, really cool to see. It's something that, you know, visual art, I love it so much. I'm not the best at it, but I have such an appreciation for that. And congratulations on getting married. It's a wild journey. My wife and I got married on Friday the 13th of 2022, and gosh, we were together for like over 8 years, or about 7.5 years by the time we got married. So we know each other pretty well, but it was cool to finally take that leap. And yeah, it's been awesome ever since. So congratulations, man.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, now Daniello and Sarah, you're in the batter's circle right now, or the batter's box. What's up? What you got?
So obviously, Gotham Noir is going to take a big chunk of the year, but within that, we still do our commercial clients or any other shoots like that, still fitting it in.
If that one gets us to do any cosplay reveals
in between them.
Oh, we do. Yeah, we've got Christopher Reeve Superman in the mix, just waiting to get that delivered, and then usually whatever else comes up.
And then in between that, now, just because of the shoot we did lately, now we possibly might be releasing another short film within this year. Nothing to do with pop culture, though. Fast and Furious kind of vibe.
That's literally based off of a conversation that we had yesterday. So
I love it.
Same deal.
We're getting an exclusive here.
Yeah, so maybe some car-related video, but definitely like something short.
Yeah, something short, something fun. Right. I think we just want to have a little bit of fun experimenting with things that we haven't really done too much of yet. So
we always like experimenting with different styles of shooting, editing.
Even photo shoots and everything like that. Like just having some fun separate to Gotham.
Because a lot of what we do informs the other things. Like a lot of techniques we learned in photography is how we applied it in Uncharted. And so that's why it's also good practice just to keep doing different styles, because then we come to like a problem on set, like, oh, there's a reflection here, I don't want it. Oh, we use a polarizer. We learned that through car photography. So honestly, just keep practicing.
It all goes hand in hand.
maybe some music videos this year as well.
Yeah.
Another couple of music videos. But most of it is just going to be dealing with that handsome man right there as Bruce Wayne, amongst all the colorful characters we're going to have on Gotham Noir.
I can't wait until the cosplay Chris workout video comes out. Like that's what I want to see. Give me the workout regimen. How do you do it? I see you do, you know, lifting yourself up with the weights hanging from your legs and everything. Do you also flip tires? Are you flipping tires too, or?
I can, man. For $20, I'll do whatever you want.
$20. Wow.
I did pitch to Daniela the other day for a behind-the-scenes featurette. Myself and some other cast members training for this one. I think it could be really fun, but just show us looking disgusting, like just drenched in sweat. Not the pretty side of it, like the grueling work that you got to put in for it.
Not glamorous.
We want to do the bat workout along with the cat workout, and then the director's one. So what I'm going to do as one of the directors, I'm going to give him a heavy dumbbell, like a gimbal, like up there. Give him a heavy dumbbell, tell him to go on a treadmill, and I'll do that for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But then in turn, he's going to make me do weighted pull-ups instead. So it'll be a fun little video.
Yeah.
There you go. Hell yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for spending some time with me. I think this is a good place to wrap things up. I want everyone to know out there, check out LUXXE Media. They've got a sexy Instagram for their production company and a sexier Instagram, maybe, for Gotham Noir. I'll put links down in the description below so you guys can check out you know, the YouTube, the Instas for Chris and for LUXXE Media, and of course for the projects they have going. And yeah, thank you guys so much for spending this time with me, having a chat. It's been great to, you know, just kind of shoot the shit back and forth through Insta, but sitting down, seeing you face to face and talking with you is, you know, one of the reasons why I started doing this and took this dive. So appreciate the time. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hell yeah. And for all you folks out there in YouTube land, I've been and will continue to be Davey Deathray. Take care.